So we immediately now go to the next and one of the most critical part of the conference. We are going to the panel discussion. Just yesterday I mentioned to you, or day before yesterday I was mentioning that you saw a photograph and you will be seeing the before and the after photograph of a temple. So this is the after photograph of the temple that we are talking about. It's Temple of Vedic Planetarium, which is built in Mayapur. It would be, so why is it one of its kind? I've given a few details here. It will be the largest religious building in the world. Larger than even St. Cathedral, Vatican, Taj Mahal, all of these buildings. And it would accommodate 10,000 people at one time. Most importantly, this temple will house a Vedic planetarium, which will have the interface of, and where people will be able to interact with and understand the cosmology. So towards this, we would be having the next panel discussion here.
Angkor Wat temple is the largest religious complex in the world, not the St. Paul's Cathedral or...
yeah, so, here a few comparisons are mentioned.
She has to just be slightly corrected. It's just in relation to height that she's talking.
Yeah.
It's not in
So, of course, the details would be with the experts, but I'm sure, the experts are giving some references only here, but that doesn't mean that when they claim that it is the largest religious this thing, so there is a basis for it. I'm just giving few references which are mentioned. So the first one, and our expert that we have here is Honorable Dr. Michael Cremo, Drutakarma Prabhu. It's an honor to introduce Dr. Michael Cremo here. He is American freelance researcher who identifies himself as a Vedic creationist and an alternative archaeologist. In his book, Forbidden Archaeology, argues how humans have lived for tens of hundreds of millions of years. And based upon the artifacts found in the Eocene auriferous gravels of Table Mountain and at California. He attended George Washington University from 1966 to 68 and then served in United States Navy. Is member of International Society for Krishna Consciousness and Bhaktivedanta Institute. He has written several books and articles in Back to Godhead, and he's our Bhakti Yoga teacher too. So it is an honor to have you, Dr. Michael Cremo.
Okay, we have a very short period of time, so I'll try to leave you with a few thoughts. This presentation is based on a paper that I presented this past July at a meeting of the World Archaeological Congress that was held in Prague in the Czech Republic. It's called Preserving Vedic Cosmology. Temple of the Vedic Planetarium is a heritage project. Normally, we think of archaeologists as digging up things from the past to display to people in the present as their heritage. But now, many archaeologists who are involved in heritage projects are beginning to think of the future. Out of all of the many things that we have today, what are the essentials that we are going to pass to future generations? So heritage can exist in tangible form and intangible form. Tangible heritage would be something like the Taj Mahal, a building or structure. And intangible heritage would be an idea, like ideas about cosmology. And what I'd like to do is give an example of the transmission of a tradition's intangible cultural heritage to the future. Now, the culture that I'm talking about is the Gaudiya Vaishnava culture of India. And in that culture, an important figure is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared in Mayapur, West Bengal in 1486. So he stressed the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavat Purāṇa. And the Bhagavatam itself is an example of futures-oriented heritage discourse. 5,000 years ago, the sages gathered at Naimisharanya at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, and they were trying to decide, out of the vast heritage of Vedic literature, what are we going to pass on to the people of the coming Kali Yuga, which is going to be so much disturbed? So their answer to that question was the Bhagavat Purāṇa, which they believed contained the essential truths that we need today to guide us as we go through these troubled times. So a basic fact about the Bhagavatam cosmology is that the world that we live in, the material world, is only a small part of a larger spiritual reality. And even within that material reality, we're only aware of a small portion of it, because there are millions of universes coming from Mahavishnu, who lies in the causal ocean. For many centuries, this cosmology was confined to India, to a certain segment of the population within India. But beginning in the mid-20th century, this cosmology was revived, updated, and globalized through the work of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. And part of his vision for how to spread knowledge of this cosmology to people all over the world was to have what he called the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And in that temple, there would be, in the main dome, a working model of the Vedic or Bhagavatam 5th canto picture of the structure of the universe. And there would also be a museum explaining and expanding upon the meaning of this. So that the museum will be in the west wing of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. I'm kind of involved in helping plan exhibits for it. So we should keep in mind that this Bhagavatam cosmology is not a dead fossil artifact of interest only to antiquarians. It is a living, vibrant presentation of where we are, what our cosmos really is, who we are in relationship to it, and where we should be going and what we should be doing. And a case can be made that this cosmology has many features that would help solve many of the problems of the world today. It includes the concept of ahimsa, of nonviolence to the earth, to other people, to other living entities. And it also involves promotion of non-material sources of happiness, which is the only solution to the world's environmental problems, because if people are getting a higher taste, they can practice voluntary simplicity, and this will help keep consumption of resources at a sustainable level. So I'll just leave you with this thought that Shukadeva Goswami expressed in the 5th canto, and that is that if someone meditates, as recommended in the Bhagavatam, on the universe as a form of God, they'll have more respect for it. And they'll be able to even go beyond that to even higher stages of realization. So those are some thoughts about presenting Vedic cosmology in the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium as a cultural heritage project. Thank you.
So, just I would like to invite Akhandati Prabhu, Professor Sriram, Dr. Aditya. Please be seated in the front. And Hari Krishna, Dr. Hari Krishna, yeah, please come in the front. And you can get 30 seconds to comment or suggest on whatever Nrutkrama Prabhu has said. So please, Professor Sriram. Professor Hari Krishna. You are here. Please be there. They'll just give their comments if they have any to make.
I open this session for discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cremo. Because I'm working with you on the exhibits that will be part of the museum, I'm obviously rather tuned in. You mentioned one aspect of the ahimsa principle that might be presented or might be an effect of persons attending the temple and this project. Have you any other kind of effects that you might feel that it would and benefits for the society?
Yes. Well, I had mentioned some of the possible impacts on, do you mean specifically the ahimsa principle?
No, other.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do think the principle of understanding that the universe has a purpose is quite important, because most of the problems that the world faces today are the result of people forgetting the purpose of life in this universe. And that is, someone mentioned, I think on the first day, maybe it was you, about the universe as university. Someone mentioned that. And really, that is the purpose of this universe. It's not an accidental universe. It has a purpose, and that's to allow the conscious selves, the souls within the universe, to become qualified to enter the larger reality of which our material universe is only a small part. So it's an opportunity for people to do that. And if they were to do that, they would solve not only the material problems that society faces, but they would solve a larger problem that we all have, being caught up in samsara, the cycle of material births and deaths.
So thank you.
Hare Krishna. It's a wonderful presentation, Prabhuji. Being a civil engineer, I am so amazed to see such a great structure. As Mataji has mentioned, one of its kind in height, should be one of its kind in dome size also. In your observation, any other remarkable features of this wonderful structure that is coming up in Mayapur Dham, other than these two, please?
I think it's very beautiful. And it's,
Beauty is one of the greatest dimensions.
yeah. Yeah.
I could mention some of the engineering.
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it has to be appreciated that this is an incredible engineering feat because it has been built on the Gangetic Delta. It's the banks of the Ganges, the Bhagirathi. It is prone to flooding almost annually. And to actually build a structure of this weight in that area has required incredible amounts of cooperation of consultants, hydrologists. As Gauranga was saying yesterday, you know, we definitely paid for to get the best technological advice on hydrology, on the river movements, on all sorts of questions. And even a team from the Vatican apparently came to visit Mayapur, because they said, we've heard what you're doing here in this location, and how is that possible? We're very interested to see your success in it.
Thank you.
So we move to the next panelist for his deliberation.